Hey everybody, I'd like to thank you for caring, coming to the website and helping a fellow Prescottonian that's in distress. I really don't know what to do. That's why I put up this site. That's why I'm doing these videos. I'd hate to have this happen to anybody, but it did happen, and it happened to me. And if there's any support or any ideas that you have, please post them in the comments section below. I'm just going to kind of go over a little bit about, what happened here, because we've got a problem. We've contacted Carol Springer. I haven't filed any lawsuits. I've been trying to take care of this in a normal Prescott way, but it just doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere. We have a personal friend who's a state senator in the subdivision here in Southview. And we told her what happened. She says, just call Carol Springer direct. Well, my wife called Carol Springer and called Carol Springer and called Carol Springer. And got a call back from her assistant several days later. My wife explained the situation to her. And I guess they sent somebody out. They never made an appointment. But my wife got a call back from the assistant. Never got a call from Carol Springer. And said they sent somebody out and they said, we shouldn't have built our house in a floodplain. Well, first of all, our house is not in a floodplain. At least when it was built, it wasn't. But now, it's hard to say. It kind of looks that way. I think it was a floodplain that was unfortunately created by something. The bottom line is this. The overall treatment of our drainage was totally effective in managing all the stormwater runoff. So that's for 7 years. We've been in our house for 7 years that led up to the storm of October 17th, 2010. And this storm, it wasn't like a monsoon. It was just a rainstorm, and probably rained about, I'm not even going to guess. But it certainly wasn't a whole lot, not like we get in the monsoons. Well, from that little rainstorm, the magnitude of the water that came out of it overwhelmed the drainage capability of the natural water course that ran through our yard. And it resulted in substantial damage to my property. And what's really interesting, it's very, very clear that the source of water that caused the damage was the draining system associated with that portion of Williamson Valley Road that has just been completed in the last couple months, the area that began just south of the intersection of Williamson Valley and Pioneer Parkway and extended down along the east side of Williamson Valley, just short of my neighbor's driveway there on 3065 Williamson Valley Road. Well, the central issue here is whether the abnormal water flow was a result of A, a quirk of nature, or B, the disturbance of the land area associated with the widening of Williamson Valley Road. Well, the rainfall is all debatable. How much did it rain? But I think what's more important is to consider is the impact of the road construction and its relationship to the damage of my property. Now, you got to remember, prior to the widening project, Williamson Valley Road was a standard 2-lane county road with a minimum shoulder width. The finished road, as it existed on the day of October 17, 2010, is now a 4-lane divided road with some pretty big shoulders. Now, since the road is crowned in the center, only the northbound lanes actually contributed to the stormwater runoff on the eastern side of that road. A very conservative estimate would place the volume of the runoff from the new road at about 2.5 times of the prior road, and that's pretty considerable. 200 to 300% more water. Well, the process of widening the cut at the northern edge of the area of concern resulted in the removal of a lot of existing vegetation, stuff that had been there for years. And that exposed a more impervious surface that's incapable of the previous level of water absorption. So there really is clear evidence that the contractor applied hydroseed to the newly graded areas, even though they were vertical pretty much in some areas, in attempt to actually increase that absorption. However, that application failed to adhere to the slope. There was no glue that is typically put on the hydroseed to keep it in place, and when it rained, all of the applied material was just washed away. Now, the result of that alone was an additional substantial contribution to the already increased stormwater runoff, as well as the huge volume of sediment that included the hydroseed that ended up in my backyard. Well, what's interesting, Yavapai County Drainage Criteria Manual in Section 5.2 describes a requirement that mechanisms be included in the design of all projects over 1 acre in total area, such as the post discharges from 2, 10, and 100-year events. So you're supposed to prepare for that. And that those events do not exceed pre-construction values. So what it's saying is you just can't simply create a problem and turn your back on it. That's why they made the manual. Had these important criteria been met in this portion of Williamson Valley Road, my property would very have likely been safe from damage, just as it had been through all the monsoons for the 7 previous years. Now, these examples of effective mechanisms include retention and detention basins with outflow restrictions. That water after that rain was coming down at 40 to 50 miles an hour, barreling like a freight train out of control, busted down my wall, and about flooded me out. Now, let's look at an effective stormwater pollution prevention plan. That's what should have been put in there. That's Section 5.2. This includes mechanisms for preventing sediments and other pollutants from entering natural waterways. Just think if an old septic system or something would have been along there. I might have had something a lot more nasty than hydroseed and sediment in my backyard. Additionally, the failure of the hydroseed application contributed a substantial amount of sediment, adding to the already produced sediment by the erosion of the newly graded slopes. There actually was areas that were 2 feet deep after one rain erosion. And if you go out along the side of the road, you can see huge cracks like earthquakes that have taken place where the actual road is separating from the shoulder. Now, at the time of the event of October 17th, there was an insufficient number of wattles. Now, you say, what's a wattle? They're those things that look like worms. And they put them down to slow off the water, the runoff. Well, they didn't even put the wattles down until about a month ago, which was 2 months after they supposedly were done with the road construction. So the direct result of this condition was the overrunning of the culverts, which is clearly demonstrated in the videos, in the natural waterway of the boundaries up and down Williamson Valley Road and into my property. The diminished discharge capacity that occurred because of this caused a buildup of pressure at my boundary wall in my backyard, ultimately causing its collapse and the damage to my water course in my yard. Now, a lot of you know I have 2 autistic kids, and we moved to Williamson Valley to have a flat yard and to be safe. We lived in Hazley in the fire of 2002, and our house came within a half a mile of getting burned up. So we decided to move to Southview. We never ever dreamed, instead of burned out, we might get flooded out.